Bioinformatics.
Okay, so this video is if you're on a Mac and you've already made your server, which should have been an M5 extra large, and you're ready to sign on. So if you do not have your server, or you need to make a new server, go back to the AWS sign up / server setup video, and you can go ahead and kind of get back to this point and come back here. So assuming you're on Mac and you have your server made, log into EC2, your AWS, and click Instances, and you should see at least one instance. I have more, but you probably only have one. What you want to do is you want to right-click that instance and go to Instant State Start. Yes, we want to start it. Now this is a computer that's housed in a warehouse somewhere far away, and just like your home computer, it needs to boot up. And that's what that yellow is indicating, that it's booting up. While it boots up, let's talk about how we're actually going to sign into this. If you're on Mac, you already have Terminal installed. It comes pre-built into every Mac operating system. You can access it via your applications, or you can use the Spotlight search by hitting Command and Spacebar and typing in Terminal. I would encourage you to go ahead and move this into your bar to kind of keep it there permanently, because we're going to use it pretty much every day. You can go ahead and open this, and it's not super pretty. You can customize the colors and things like that. I actually use an alternative version of Terminal called iTerm. That's optional. Everything functions exactly the same. But for the purpose of this class video, I'm going to go ahead and do everything in this iTerm because it's a little easier for you to see. So hopefully by the time you got Terminal opened, you see that your server is green and running. That means that we're ready to log in. So only thing you need from this page is, with your server selected, go down here to where it says Public DNS and copy this. There's usually a button there to actually copy it to your clipboard so you don't add in any extra spaces or anything like that. Now, we move into our terminal, and we're going to use the command SSH for secure sign-on to log into this thing. And it's okay if not all of this makes sense to you yet. So as we sign in, we need to pass a modification, because we're not using a regular password. If you recall, we downloaded and made that permissions file. We need to tell SSH that we want to securely sign on using a permissions file instead of a password. The argument for that, which is basically the modification for that, is -i. When you use -i, it expects you to provide a permissions file. And so mine is on my desktop. Now, how do we get to a file and tell it where it is? We have to either know exactly where it is in our head, or we just have to be a little creative and get comfortable in how to navigate around the terminal. And you're going to get much better at this throughout the semester. So whenever you first log into a terminal, it defaults to your home directory, which is pretty much one level above where your desktop and things are. So if you were to hit tab twice here, you'll be able to list what's in the directory you're currently sitting in, your home directory. And you can see that one of those things is the desktop. So if we were to start typing desktop and hit tab, it's going to autocomplete it because it knows what you're trying to type, because it's actually present and there. It ends it with a slash because it's a directory. There's things within it. And so now we can tell it what we want within that folder. I'm not sure what I remember named my permissions file, perhaps, so I could hit tab twice, and I could see all the things that are on my desktop. One of them is the AWS key.pem. So I could start typing AWS, and I could type the whole thing by hand, but I might put typos in it. So I always like to finish things with the tab. There's no chance for typos that way. So we've got SSH. We've provided it the path and name of our permissions file. And now we need to tell it that what server we want to log into and what our username is. Now the username for all of your servers will always be Ubuntu. And then we provide an @ symbol and give the address of the computer. And so that's what we copy and pasted. We should be good to go. If we hit enter, it might ask you if you're sure if you want to sign in. You type yes. And if you come here and you see Ubuntu at some IP address, you're good. You're done. You're ready to move on. You had no issues. You're signed into your server. Everything you type now interfaces with the server, not your actual local computer. So if we were to hit tab twice, we actually don't have any files currently located in our home directory of our new server. If you ran into an issue where instead of getting to Ubuntu, you stayed in your MacBook, double check that you typed everything correctly, that you copy and pasted the address right, that you didn't have any typos, and that your permissions file was able to be tab completed because you were typing it correctly and that it was in the location that you told it was. In my case, the desktop. If yours isn't in the desktop, consider moving it there or make sure that you provide the proper path to it. The other issue you could run into is it could kick back and say something along the lines of, your key is not private. Now, Amazon wants your permissions files to all be private, not modifiable. Now, sometimes when you download and move things, it changes the permissions of files. This is an easy fix, and we're going to use the command chmod to fix it. Don't worry about what that is or what it does, but we're going to change the permissions to 400, and then all we need to do is tell chmod what file we want to change the permissions to 400. And so we can provide the path to it, which is it's on the desktop from where I'm located, and it's named aws.pem file. You're going to just see that same command prompt pop back up. It's not going to say anything if it worked correctly. If for some reason you typed it wrong, then it will say something. It'll say, hey, you typed it wrong. Sometimes if you just see the command prompt pop up with nothing happening, that's usually a good sign. So if you got that permission fixed, you can just hit up a few times to get back to your sign in and go ahead and hit enter. And hopefully you're signed in and ready to move on. One thing I'll mention is that the actual address for your server changes every single time that you start and stop it. So you can't just try and paste the same server address every single time. You always have to come here when you reboot it and copy this anew. If you're all done and you're going to come back later, go ahead and make sure that you stop your instance. Okay, that's it.